Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning in. So, first things first, again, I have to apologize. Still getting over this cold. That may be why I sound a bit different, and I want to preemptively apologize for any time I don't get to the mute switch fast enough. So, hopefully that doesn't happen, but there we go. So everyone, and let's just say that, so today on the program, in the second part of the show, we will have computer and technology news. That is a segment dedicated entirely to, well, the issues of technology. And this can be anything from policy, new product releases. It can be, just fun stories, things that we feel you should know about because, we try to follow this every single day and we can't imagine, actually having a life and doing that. So we try to sort through the junk and, really find some interesting stories for you. And again, that's in the second part of the program. But in the first part of the program, it's dedicated to a guest. And which guest? Well, I'm very happy to say Hearo.live. And if you haven't heard of the company, actually, I should say, if you haven't heard of the service, then you are in the right place because we're going to be talking to the CEO all about what it is that they do, how they do it, and so on and so forth. This will be a great introduction and, really just, really find out if this is a service that, maybe you've been wanting for a long time. So why don't we go ahead and just say computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including a link to our guest show notes. That's where you'll find our show notes, which have everything, including a link to our guest website. Man, that was difficult. It will also have any topics that we cover, any products that we discuss, anything that we talk about here on today's show will be in the show notes after the program. So with that being said, everyone, not much else, just a regular slew of shows this week and next week and really for the foreseeable future because, January, it was really, really, really hectic with CES, but we're back in the swing of things and, hey, we're getting back to it. So everyone, why don't we go ahead and get things started with our guests. So as I said before, Hearo.live, all about the service and what they do. And really, if you're into eSports, watching streams, of course, Computer America has a video portion as well that is very much like a video game stream. Then, hey, this is something that it's almost communal watching has really picked up steam. And I got to say that, seeing all these ancillary companies and services that are, really trying to fill all the gaps that these services provide is really exciting. So happy to announce Mr. Ned Lerner will be joining us. And again, CEO. Ned, how you doing? Welcome on to Computer America.
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. And so a little long-winded, a little windy, but that was my introduction. But I'd really appreciate it if you could take us back to the beginning, give us a bit of your background. Have you always been involved in technology? And then give us a bit of background on Hearo.live. Where did the idea come from?
Sure. I've actually been making computer games since 1982, which is not a typo. Bought my first Apple II and started typing away. I wrote the game that Electronic Arts based their IPO on in 1987 called Chuck Yeager's Advanced Flight Trainer. It was one of the first really fun 3D games and changed my life. And I got to meet Chuck, which is all good stuff. Then kind of one of the first people doing 3D games. And then one of the guys working for me invented 3D texture mapping. So I started a company called Looking Glass Technology with my partner, Paul Narath. And that was a company that's sort of dedicated to doing texture mapping games. What a radical idea. and that they did a System Shock, Ultima Underworld. They did actually Madden 93 for Electronic Arts, which just because somebody needed to write it. And then dialing up to Internet.1, I did a company called Multitude, which did two things. The first one was a game called Fire Team. It was kind of like a MOBA thing where you and your friends would compete in groups of 4 to capture the other person's base. This is in 1997, about 10 years before League of Legends. So we were a little ahead of our time. We had to invent digital distribution and everything else. So that was maybe a little too bold. But that changed over from Fire Team to Fire Talk. Fire Talk was one of the first internet voice conferencing services. It looked a lot like Skype about 3 years before Skype came out. And that was a crazy Internet One thing where we raised a giant pile of money and we had tons of ads and we were growing like crazy. And then in March, was it 1999, we hit the wall and along with everybody else. And I got a job as the chief technical officer of Maxis working on The Sims, which wasn't a bad
Very
backup
nice.
plan.
Yeah.
And I one of my favorite games and some of my favorite folks. My first corporate job, so I had as a person whose only skill was making games, that was a big change in my life. I learned who you had to listen to and who you had not to listen to. It took me a few months, didn't quite catch on that quickly. Then I joined Sony PlayStation in 2003, and I was there for 13 years. Worked on all their platforms, but most recently the PlayStation 4, which was just really a great project. So and after 13 years of PlayStation, things got kind of happy and settled, which isn't my normal thing because the PlayStation 4 really did a good job, and my job was to keep doing the same thing, which I did for a couple of years, and then it's like, time to come up with something new, and I came up with this idea for Hearo.live. So that's how I got to where we're today.
Quite the pedigree, and that's you worked with some of the largest companies, of course, not just not just in the background, but actually bringing these products to life. I'm sure that experience has really helped you in launching something like this. So all of the history leads you to Hearo.live. Talk about the service. What would you say is what does it do?
Sure. So again, my gaming dates back to the old days of paper games and Dungeons and Dragons, and that's always been my favorite way to play side by side with my friends and my family, whether it's paper games or console games or PC games. And we've grown up now in a world where most gaming is multiplayer, and you feel like you're side by side with your friends. And a lot of people wear headsets and they're talking while they're playing, and it's a very social experience. But for some reason, when you go and then you watch something instead of play something, you lose all that. It's back to me and my TV set or me and my phone. And even though you're connected to the world, it's all you time. It's kind of lonely and isolating. And the idea was, hey, why don't we let you do the same kind of fun things with your friends not only when you're playing games, but when you're just watching regular stuff. So that's the idea, to take that sort of multiplayer-ness of games and bring it to watching eSports, games, sports, news, everything. We really want to just let you turn your phone, your PC, even your TV into this like friends machine, just like it's a multiplayer game like a PlayStation 4. So and we're pretty far along the path now. I think we're the best app for watching esports and game watching. And hopefully in the springtime, we'll let you watch TV sports also with our app. So that's the next big jump we're working on right now.
That's a very big jump, considering we might have to talk about licensing and getting the rights to be able to broadcast that kind of thing. But let's focus on really the video games. Just kind of real quick with the esports. And before we even talk about watching it with your friends, I wanted your again, as someone who came up through the video game industry from its very, very early beginnings, this rise of esports where there's so many, like, I don't want to say that there's a specific age where people turn their nose up at it and say, why would
Right.
you want to watch someone play a game as opposed
Yeah,
to
when
sit
you
down
can
and
play
play
it
it yourself?
yourself.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
one of the go-tos. How do you feel about esports and really video games, which are meant to be, back in the day, they were casual, being played on a professional level on a large international stage?
As a gamer, I think it's just like incredible. I mean, almost unbelievable that you can, if you're good enough, you can become famous, make a good living playing games for a living. That's just mind blowing to me. I did go through the same phases. I think of what the heck is this esports stuff a
Yeah.
while ago now, because new stuff does take a bit of time to get used to. But now I can see it. It's the games are visually spectacular in a way that big Hollywood movies are and really well filmed sports games are, but they look great. And unlike football, which some people play, but most people don't, when a lot of people who watch these esports games really want to learn from the best. And so that could be a streamer, it could be a pro team, but it has that charming thing that anybody can play the game they're watching. And a lot of people do, and a lot of people become better players. And so gamers are competitive. Anything they can do to win, they'll buy a better computer if they can afford it. They'll buy a great mouse, headset. They'll spend hours watching other people learn, and so that I think helps drive the whole thing. But fundamentally, it is really surprisingly fun. When you play a game, you have to make a pretty serious commitment these days for a lot of games. You have to learn the game and reserve blocks of time.
Hmm.
When you watch a game, it's easy. You don't have to be an expert yet. You might only need 5 or 10 or 15 minutes, and so they kind of fit really well together. When you have a big block of time to hang out and master something, great. And when tonight's not the night, but you've got a little time to kill between activities, you can watch. So I think I see the world in the future as ping ponging, going back and forth between watching and playing, depending if you have a big block of time or a small block of time, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
So
I would definitely agree with all those, and I have really immersed, like honestly, in my spare time, I have almost replaced kind of live TV entirely, or even things like Netflix, with watching streams, either streams on YouTube, streams on Twitch. It's something that like no two episodes are going to be the same. And by episodes, I mean someone turning on their webcam and sitting down and playing a game. It's very informal. It's very dynamic, and of course, there's that also the interaction, which I'm sure we're going to talk about as well. Because watching a stream is one thing, being able to interact not just with the stream itself, but also with other people watching the stream is another huge part of what makes streaming so interesting. So I think the next question here. So we understand esports, and again, we'll get to live sports here in a little bit, but let's talk about the platform. And I, looking at your website here, and when watching the video portion, you can see it up here. iOS, Android, and of course, smartphone. Talk about all the different ways that you could have done this, because there are probably software solutions like on a PC. You decided to go with smartphone. Of course, there are much more in-depth, kind of meeting places like in, let's say, virtual reality. But you decided smartphone was the best avenue for this. Why was that?
it's a good question. So our idea is that it's just more fun to hang out with friends, play games with friends, and watch stuff with friends. So we wanted to make that as easy as possible. One nice thing about a phone is pretty much everyone has one, so it's always around. And there's tons of them. There's literally 4 billion phones. So it's like, yeah, let's get it to work on that. Phones also are surprisingly good audio devices. A lot of us are used to like cell phone calls on our phones, but actually the design and the hardware of those phones is really well optimized for voice, way beyond what a normal cell phone call needs. So if you try Hearo.live, you might be shocked how good your phone is at broadcasting and receiving audio. It sounds really good, comparable to a quite a nice PC with a nice headset. And of course, everybody's got one, so and not everyone has a nice PC and a nice headset, so that's really nice. As of today, actually, since we're always working, we've released Hearo also on the web. So if you go to Hearo.live, you basically go into this eSports page. It shows you various eSports and streamer events, and you can click on them and join right from your PC. Looks really nice. It's a bigger screen. Audio quality isn't quite there yet. We've got some work to do, but hopefully it's good enough that you can enjoy the beautiful full screen thing while you're talking to your friends.
That is really impressive. I'm glad that you're able to announce that here. Definitely want to go check that out. And again, we'll have a link to your website there in the show notes. Let's talk about the service itself. So I have my phone. I have my group of friends. We have a few other options to connect and watch. And of course, one of the most obvious, I guess, competitors that you would have would be the fact that, hey, we could all sit in the same chat room in Twitch, and watch the same stream in Twitch. And, just me and 6 friends could do that. Why would someone want to use something like Hearo.live as opposed to going directly to the source? Directly to the source.
So Twitch has been around for a while now, and of course, tons of people use it and watch tons of stuff. When I use it, I'm always annoyed because what I want to do is talk to my friends while I'm watching Twitch, and that's really hard to do in anything past a couple hundred viewers. So I go to a big event and I type, and my friend will never see it, and they type, and I'll never see them. And so I'm kind of lost my favorite part, which is me and my friends like hanging out together, watching together. So what then people do is they say, oh, it's not just Twitch, it's Twitch and Discord. And a bunch of people do that. In fact, I would say half of our customers have come from that starting point. The trouble is that Twitch isn't made to work with Discord, and Discord isn't made to work with Twitch, and they kind of fight each other, and they don't really synchronize correctly, and the audio isn't quite what you want it to be. So it's just not that good an experience, which makes sense. Neither of the companies are particularly working together. It's just something that users are figuring out for themselves to try to make that work. So with us, it's an integrated solution. It is a really, really good Twitch viewer. In some ways, in my opinion, better than Twitch itself. Mm-hmm. It's a really good quality audio solution. It has echo cancellation. It has full synchronization. It's designed to be a friends thing. So the first screen is what your friends are doing. Tap, boom, you're there. It's a nice, if you're just going to watch by yourself, or you think it's fun just to hang out with, thousands of people typing, you should keep doing Twitch. If you want to watch with your friends, talking, cheering, laughing, then Hearo is designed for that specific purpose, and really does a good job of it too.
I gotcha. And so I guess something that has become really popular, of course, on Twitch, and I'm assuming on YouTube as well. And actually, before I even ask that, Mixer, it exists. Is there any planned functionality for Mixer on your platform as well?
Yeah, Mixer, we really want to cover, we want to be like a social meeting place for friends and give them access to all the stuff they want to watch. So we've actually, we support Mixer, we support Vimeo. As I briefly mentioned, we're working on supporting live TV. And then hopefully by the end of the year, we'll even be able to get to Netflix and Amazon Prime and stuff. The way I think of it is we're actually a browser.
Yeah.
And a browser with some special like friends features, like a social browser. And so we don't, if the browser can get to it with a little bit of twiddling on our part, we can get to it too. You need to have an account. So if you can't get access to it with your regular browser, you're not going to be able to get access to it on Hearo. But the opposite is true too. If you have an account, we can let you sign in, and then you can get the stuff that you've paid for, which seems pretty reasonable to me.
So I hope that you don't take this the wrong way, but this seems very reminiscent of another application that's very popular among people who play video games, and this is called Discord. Discord, you do not need an account to register, although if you have an account, you can kind of save your past Discord channels and things like that. It's a very social experience, but it's almost like each Discord channel is its own dedicated to either its own social network, or each channel is dedicated to its own, topic of conversation, so on and so forth. I'm seeing a lot of elements of Discord. Of course, Discord is not for browsing or watching or communal watching or anything like that. It is strictly for socializing and, kind of talking. Did you take inspiration from that, or do you see elements where you kind of say, Discord does this really well, but they don't also do this, so it's our job now to bring obviously features that everyone likes, and it's our job to bring them together into one application.
Yeah, we take tremendous. I mean, we're definitely standing on the shoulder of giants. So we couldn't do this without Twitch. Discord inspired us too. I'll also say that Discord in turn may have been inspired by Skype and my previous voice chat thing. But that's the long world we live in. But yeah, Discord does a really excellent job of all sorts of features. It isn't designed to watch stuff. People do screen share stuff. Screen sharing looks kind of
That's true.
But it also doesn't. Yeah. So sometimes the way we describe it is we're kind of a simplified, streamlined combo of Twitch and Discord, and the combination it's designed to fit together. It feels nice. It looks nice. It sounds nice. With Discord, if you look at the numbers of Discord, there's a lot of servers, let's say with 1,000 people on them.
Yeah.
Probably 990 of those people aren't allowed to talk. So when I meet new people and talk about Discord, some people don't even realize that you can talk with Discord, because most of the servers they go to don't let them. If they see it, it's a very heavy text chat. And yeah, I know its roots were voice, but with each iteration, it seems to be more about other things, including text chat.
Yeah.
And one thing I think surprised us, and I think would surprise other people, the text chatting actually seems to, in a lot of times, to make the viewing experience worse, because it's really kind of distracting and annoying. I mean, you're trying to watch some really cool play or event, and then there's this wall of text that's kind of, do you try to read it? Do you not try to read it? I mean, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, the first thing I do on Twitch is turn off the text. And so, yeah, with Discord and Twitch
one
together,
of my biggest pain
more,
points with Discord.
stuff.
Yeah. And I just want to jump in there and say that one of my biggest pain points with Discord as well is that I'll get invited to a random Discord, and then the channel will just be super active, and then you don't pay attention. You come back and you have 1,000 notifications because people were at everybody, and hey, that doesn't apply to me, but it certainly blew up my phone. Right. So
yeah, no, Discord's like I said, it's great for what it does, but it's not so good for just you and your friends hanging out.
I gotcha. So, but yeah. Hey, that's where Hearo.live is, of course. That's where you are looking to shine in. So
yeah. I'm gonna, if I could, we do one thing that's kind of strange and different from everybody else, and I'm very proud of it. Everybody else, they just pile more and more people into the same room. So with Twitch, you get 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, get 1 million people in a room, and the text chat starts to fly pretty quick. With Discord too, they can handle hundreds, maybe even thousands of people. And again, as you say, you start to get all these messages and notifications and stuff. For us, we scale differently. Each group of friends has what we call a private box, and that private box is limited to 2025. And we scale by adding more boxes. So if 1,000, 10,000 people are watching an event, you're going to have 100, 1,000 rooms of friends. So it's really easy to talk and watch with your friends, and not really worry about the fact that there's 9,900 other people also talking and watching with their friends. Which just makes it a much more like inviting people over the house experience, where it's just hang out with people you want to and don't worry about the rest of the world.
My immediate question to that kind of method is, let's just go with the house analogy. Will you have random people popping in and out of your house and potentially either distracting the conversation or just being obnoxious themselves? Is each room private invitation only, or are they, or can you find these different boxes just through a browser or something like that?
Right. So we have 3 settings: public, open, and closed. And closed is like every person needs to be individually invited to your room, and that's that's probably more like inviting people over your house. Public is like going to a sports bar. Just show up. There's people there. If you don't like it, you can make your own space, because again, everyone can start their own room. So, you can try to invite people to your space and, end up with your own sports bar instead of their sports bar. And then open is it's not listed in the public directory, but there's a link you can share really easily. So if you were, say, a streamer, you could put that link into Twitter, and you could have 1,000 people show up, and then every group of 10 or 20 would end up with their own room. But you wouldn't have to individually invite and approve every single person. Personally, I've got it set at open, and because it's people who kind of know me, everyone's pretty polite. So I haven't had to go to closed. Some people do go to closed, and then it's like entirely secure. And then on the other side, some people really want to just go out and meet somebody who loves Call of Duty or loves a particular team, which is like going to a stadium to watch the Giants or the 49ers or something.
Yeah.
And so it's just a choice, public, open, or closed.
Perfectly explained. And I got to say that, personally for me, that's where I definitely enjoy streams, is that, kind of like you mentioned, with a couple hundred people, it honestly does become impossible to hold a conversation in a chat room of a streamer with hundreds of people. But my favorite thing about chat is that when you get to the thousands, chat, like this thousands of people typing suddenly become almost one entity, and then they all react at the same time. They all have the same opinion, and it's almost like they take on a life of its own. And that's what I really enjoy. So you're saying that, of course, you could have, 20 friends all sitting together. What would you say is kind of the upper maximum of people in one, kind of chat space?
The analogy we use is it's like boxes at a stadium. Each box maxes out at 20 to 25.
Mm-hmm.
We will be releasing, and we have already working in tests, a system that lets you hear the stadium, which is we combine the sounds of all the microphones into one single stream. So if something happens, you can literally hear the crowd react and roar, clap, applaud, as if you were in a real theater or a real stadium. That's going to be a lot more important to feature as we scale up the company and we start to see regularly 100,000, 10,000 person events. Right now, it's very much groups of friends hanging out in small groups. So having the ability to have a 1,000-person theater isn't even particularly detectable at this point. But as soon as we start to do deals with bigger companies, I think that live theater stadium feeling is going to be really fun. And it'll be the first time that people have been able to get a live audience reaction that doesn't require people to drive and sit down right in front of them. So it's kind of an amazing new thing that we'll discover over the next few months.
So, and let's start talking, let's actually take a step back and talk about esports real quick, and then we'll talk about, the live sporting events, because both are very similar. I think what's happening with esports, it's, of course, electronic sports, I guess kind of lends itself to technology a lot better than traditional sports, because don't get me wrong, traditional sports have spent billions of dollars, building these arenas and, investing in camera technology, so on and so forth. But at least with esports, you can get the feed directly from the tournaments, of the people playing, things like that. You say that using Hearo.live, you can get a really, really good viewing experience, and you don't have to compromise on the chat. Talk about how you've optimized, maybe watching the stream as opposed to, again, going to Twitch or YouTube or something like that.
Generally, everything we're doing now is sort of first steps and trying to keep everything simple. It makes it easier for us. Hopefully, makes it easier for people to figure it out and enjoy it. So we're a browser. We let the same way that your browser can play Twitch or YouTube or Vimeo Mixer, we do very similar things. So you can also see Twitch streams and YouTube streams. And since it's working like a browser, it's that original quality. It's not the copy retransmit thing of Discord. So it looks surprisingly good. And of course, we're set up to be full screen since there's no text chat. And I have to say, a lot of people are shocked how good both YouTube and Twitch look full screen on a phone. They do a really good job capturing and retransmitting the signal. And of course, we play it, and we've worked hard to sort of optimize our player, but we're only part of that total package.
I gotcha.
But 1080p video looks really good.
Yeah. I definitely agree. And then of course, let's see. So some of the other things that I wanted to kind of mention. All right. So streaming on your phone, that's great. One thing that I have been using a lot of personally, and I just wanted to know, this would kind of help people in certain settings. The ability, and I know Chromecast is, just one of many restreaming services, but being able to, Chromecast it or put the image on a larger TV and, kind of being able to sit in a room with a group of friends, and then still the people, the friends that couldn't make it could still participate in the chat room kind of function. Is that functionality something you've thought about?
Yes. So we want to make Hearo available on like everything, everything from PCs and smartphones to smart TVs and even smart speakers. The Chromecast stuff, it puts the video up, but it doesn't necessarily put the audio up.
Right.
And so it doesn't quite do what we want it to do. That being said, if you go to an Android TV, that's not that different than a giant Android phone. So that'll in theory, we've got work to do, but in theory, that'll give you more of the whole experience
Interesting.
on device. Yeah. In theory, you could watch on one device and talk on a different device, but then you start to run into synchronization issues and stuff. So yeah, there's all sorts of things for us to figure out over the next year or two.
Well, and that's probably like the a few times now that you've said, kind of the beginning steps. We want to make sure the basics are down. We want to get the fundamentals perfected. Is Hearo.live in beta?
Yes. So it may be an endless beta because we're always adding cool stuff. But the iOS version and Android version are really solid. The web version just shipped this morning, so I'll apologize in advance, but it looks really good, I'll tell you that. And so, yeah, it's free. Try it out. Try it with your friends. And we're just going, the main thing we're doing over the next year is kind of trying to support more and more of the stuff that people like to watch, TV, Netflix and such. And then at some point, working with businesses to take advantage of this virtual theater, virtual stadium thing, so they can have a place to bring their audience into. To make up an example, Electronic Arts has all sorts of amazing sports games, but they don't really have a virtual stadium for the sports games. So we're talking to a whole bunch of companies about saying, hey, your games need a place you can gather your community together, to let them watch, let them talk, let them, almost as if you're inviting them to a PAX or a convention, and because it's really fun to actually bring your community together. And YouTube isn't going to do that for you. Maybe Twitch will someday, but right now, when you work with Twitch or YouTube, they get the customers. It's their interface, it's their feature set, it's their rules. It's like, well, game companies, you own this stuff, not Twitch or YouTube. Why don't you get a direct connection to your customers? And so if we can prove that this is really fun and exciting and great for people, then we think there's a really good business case to be made too. So hopefully that pays the bills for the consumers. They can just enjoy it for free, and the businesses can go and help us stay in business.
Of course, no, and that you're absolutely right. I mean, Twitch may have been one of the first, and before that, I think it was it like Justin TV or something like that. But anyways,
Justin TV.
Yeah. Like they may have been one of the first, but they've kind of hit on this this theme that people want to connect and they want to be able to watch. but they also want to communicate and stay connected with their friends. So you're absolutely right there. Now, switching a bit from esports and that kind of thing and getting back to, the real life sports, and then of course, Netflix, Hulu, and a lot of the other streaming services, because, streaming video games is one thing, streaming sports is a whole nother thing. And then streaming video is, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry unto itself. I think that one of the most obvious is things like Netflix. That would be a billion-dollar company if someone could get the rights. And same with, I think, same with like live sports. But we've talked to companies that have had, who've had to go through the hoops to really get, the broadcasting rights and things like that. It's not easy. They're very protective of their IP, and they don't just hand that out to everyone. Do you have any? Do you have any plans for approaching these companies and saying that, hey, look, people are going to watch this. One person may rebroadcast their Netflix to 6 people, but at the same time, how's that any different than, let's say, 6 people coming over to your house and watching Netflix? Is that the kind of argument you're hoping will persuade them, or what's your approach as you see it?
Well, you're certainly right that whenever there's money involved, somebody's going to be guarding the gate. So that's just something to know up front and to try to do the right thing. Our technical approach is to be a smart TV or a browser that we let you watch stuff that you've been authorized to watch. So you will need an account for any pay service. You will need an account on that pay service. Mm-hmm. And for TV, there's actually over 500 different ways to pay for TV. Thankfully, anyway. So, but there's a standard way of authenticating. And so we're going to force all of our users to authenticate, which they have to do anyway if they bought a smart TV or they're trying to watch it on their browser. It's the same thing. You go to the website, you go to the smart TV channel. It says, who are you? What's your password? Okay, information, boom, you're in. So at least we're starting at a good point of saying, we play by the rules. Technically, again, we're a browser. We're not doing any copying or retransmitting. The content provider has to send us a signal. If they don't send us a signal, you can't watch it. And then the question is, can we do a deal that's mutually beneficial? Because we can be a software smart TV without or a browser and let people use Hearo like they're using Chrome or Firefox and surf around. But we're really hoping to do deals with the content providers because we think we can do everything from provide them with a unique data source. We can say, hey, at this particular second in your program, this is what it sounded like. This, you can hear the people cheering, or you can hear the people laughing. Oh no, they're very quiet right now. We can also, because we're a browser, we're actually kind of on the top. So if you want to have a call to action, like an advertisement or a, hey, try watching this other thing, it's really easy for us because we own that user experience. And it's a different experience than the usual passive watching because it's you and your friends and you're talking and stuff. So we think we're going to be a good partner with all sorts of companies, in part because we're set up to be a partner and in part because we're trying to be a partner. But there's also a real advantage of having a direct connection to your user, which is, even on Twitch, it's not that direct a connection. Anyway, I'm rambling.
No. You're and that's really the answer I was looking for, is that you're hoping to make deals with these content providers directly, but until then you are strictly a browser. And like you said, anything that people can watch on their own, you want to be able to rebroadcast that right. Just in a communal setting. So that's perfect.
Exactly.
So,
and I'll say this, a lot of the folks are looking for, there's kind of a lot of the people in the video and media business, to be honest, they are scared of gaming. They see the numbers going up and up and up and up, and they see the demographics of those numbers, and they see their own numbers and their own demographics. They're like, what's going to happen when the people who have been playing esports since they've been 7 years old, grew up. Are they ever going to leave? Are they ever going to come back to video? So there are a lot of companies we're talking to which are like, we need a Gen Z thing. We need something for the young people. It's like, well, why don't you make the experience of watching a lot more like playing a multiplayer game? And I was like, that sounds good. So that's kind of our kind of entry into some of these companies.
I definitely noticed that when I think it was the NFL made deals with certain streamers on Twitch to watch, NFL football. Because I guess that the demographics of football, they just, like you said, the younger audiences just weren't there. Before kids had to sit down with their parents and watch football because, hey, you had one TV and the kids were, I guess, kind of brainwashed into it. But now, football not really appealing to the younger kids. So, hey, they're trying to bring traditional media to a younger audience. And really, I think that's what you're hitting on here. It's something definitely worth doing, and something, how do I put this? It's something worth doing differently as well. And I think you have differently here some of the other ideas I've seen almost in your space. And I hate to go back to VR because, we have not talked about VR at all, but having these meeting spaces and then having them in VR with, I guess, kind of avatar, almost avatar representations of your friends as well. That's something that got a little bit of traction, but then kind of died off when VR, didn't really catch on like it was supposed to. Anything about, virtual reality or I'll even open up a little bit, any new technology, does any new technology have you excited about, possibilities for Hearo.live?
Yeah. So when I was at PlayStation, I actually didn't do a lot of work, but I actually worked a bunch on the audio system of all things on PlayStation VR. And I believe PlayStation VR is the number one hardware for VR still. So
yeah, it is.
I've got a little bit more knowledge than the normal person. I talking to my friends who are still doing it, I think VR, AR, XR, they're coming, but it's probably at least another 5 years, maybe 10. It's a really tough problem to solve. It needs to be light, and it needs to be cheap, and there's battery issues, and it needs to be super powerful and super fast. And so every generation is getting better. And I think people are realizing that it's more fun when you can actually see.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is, people are now, it's this mixed reality. It's like you can you can be in a room and you can see the outlines you can still see the room, so you won't whack your head against the wall.
Right.
But now they can bring stuff into your room, and that's coming soon. That's even more technology and more pieces to get to work. But as soon as you can actually see the real world while you're wearing the VR gear, I think it's just going to be a lot more fun and a lot less nausea inducing. If you can actually let people see what the real world is like, that nausea factor goes way down. So that's coming, and we're excited about it, but we're a little startup. We're not planning 10 years ahead. So I actually think of Hearo as an AR thing, and it's basically augmenting the world with audio. And I know that's really simple, but it works really well. So it's, kind of like, hey, we put a radio in your car. Well, that's really nice. We put a phone in your car. That's really nice. It's like, yeah, can you put a phone into my TV set? Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. It's a really nice addition to your TV set. It's nothing. After working in the game industry for so long, I've become very sort of like practical about, you need, if you're going to spend this much money hiring engineers, you need to sell this many copies. If you want to sell that many copies, you need this many devices. Otherwise, you can't do it. So we just kind of have to, again, why we're starting with phones and PCs, the big number thing. So it's just, we start, and then over time, we can hopefully get a little more specialized and do cool stuff. And that would be nice too.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I brought up AR was the fact that phones and AR VR is that phones can act as, like, let's say a VR headset, a very limited kind of experience because there are no sensors or anything like that. But to some extent, you could get the adapter headsets and make one. But I would say even the popularity of doing that has fallen from from when it once was.
Yeah.
So
It was a bit of a show off the fun demo thing. When I see, I'm not young. I've been doing this for 40 years, so you can guess how old I am. But when I hang out with people who are younger, a lot of them, when they're watching on their phones, the phones are literally like 4 inches away from their eyeballs, which is kind of the equivalent of like an 80-inch TV if you do like the basic angle, the way the dimensions work. So, and that's not that different than putting a phone on a piece of cardboard on your head. The idea is put the phone up as close as you can, and the picture just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's why, again, you want 1080p or even better, because the pixels are starting to get big. And that, again, it's shocking how well phones work as displays. But ideally, you have young eyes, and you can bring that phone 6 inches away from your eyeballs.
right.
So.
Okay, and by the way, poke around on your website here. You have a couple of partners. Talk about what makes an ideal partner for your company, because we're seeing things here like helping people find other people to watch games with. We're seeing here, let's say, eSports companies that are going to be competing in sports that I would assume want to connect with their audience. What makes a good partner for a service such as yourself?
So. Great question. A couple things. One is we want people who are like hustling and move fast, because we're a young company and we don't want to wait 2 or 3 years. We want people who say, yeah, I'll try that next month, kind of a thing. So that tends to be smaller companies. Thankfully, the whole world of esports is full of fast moving people who are trying new stuff. So that's generally a good fit. Because we need obviously people who produce streams, because our whole point is to overlay those streams with your friends. That's almost everybody, thankfully, but not everybody. And then if you want to use our web version, it's better if you have a website, because then we can layer our we call it a web embed, right into your website, and turn that website from kind of the normal, yeah, you can watch here, but there's really nothing special, and you might as well watch it on Twitch or YouTube, to like hey, my website is my home base. This is where all my fans come out and hang out. They can hang out with me. They can hang out with each other. And so yeah, so fast moving video. Think video is really important. Really want a direct connection to their customers, and ideally have a web page that they can use as that home base for their live audience. And that's actually a lot of folks. So we're just keeping busy.
It certainly sounds like it. That's and really just everything that you're outlining here. The basics are one thing, but you have so many plans for the future. Why don't we talk about where you hope to see this whole thing kind of end up? Like, what would be 5 years down the road? This is it. This is our successful product. What does that look like?
That's probably my favorite question. So what I foresee, and I've been around long enough to know that 5 years isn't forever, but I foresee a world where when you turn on your device, whether it's your TV set, your computer, or your phone, you can see what your friends are. You can see what your friends are doing, at least the ones who want to be found. And if they're playing Madden, or they're watching FIFA, or they're watching a Netflix show, there's a list of your friends, and you can go click and you can join them. That's what we call a friends first world, a friends first interface, and that's what we want to drive towards. This single screen list of your friends, what they're doing, click and join them. And for me personally, I usually if I'm either working and then maybe I don't want my friends to look at me, or I'm goofing off and I'd love to hang out with my friends. And yeah, occasionally I want to be in incognito mode and I don't want anybody to know what I'm doing. But most of the time, if I'm just, again, playing, watching, having fun, I'd love my friends to know they can join me in a click, or I could do that for them. So in my mind, it's a much simpler and kind of friendlier world. Right now, when I have to figure out what to do, it's like, okay, Netflix, YouTube, TV, web pages. Okay, I'm at Netflix. All right, there's 10 million screens to scroll through. Have I seen this one? Whereas the friends first world is, maybe you have, if you're lucky, maybe you have 30 people you would really like to hang out with and sit down for an hour or two to watch something. That fits on a screen or two. That's really a simple view of the world. It's like, hey, so that's what we're driving to, the, like I said, the friends first world. What are your friends doing? Join them, invite them. Done.
It seems like such a simple thing, and I'm hoping that in the future, it really does become that simple, because that's going to be really, kind of the determining factor if a service such as yours, really takes off. And having your own application and like we said, available on iOS and Android, and of course, as of today, now the web, that's hugely important. But I think that, kind of personally, I mean this in the best way possible. I hope that you get bought out, and I hope that someone gives you a pile of money and they integrate your service, really natively with all of these different applications, and it just becomes, kind of just simple. Just click and you're there and you're good to go.
My investors will be happy if we pay them back double, and happier if we pay them back times 20. So those are all wonderful upside scenarios. And I think I'm describing something that feels like science fiction. There's a world where you can just click and hang out with your friends. But the PlayStation isn't that far off today for playing games. For playing games, the PlayStation Network, you can see what your friends are doing. You can click and join them, but it's only for games. And our idea is like, should be for everything, for everybody. Let's make it happen.
Absolutely.
So we could definitely use some helpers to execute the giant vision of changing the way the world entertains itself.
So something that I actually didn't touch on here, which I probably should, because we've been talking about how to hang out with friends, and the natural question would be social media integration. Any thoughts there? Because I don't know if you know this, but Facebook actually has their own streaming service. It's not as popular, but it exists. So, I mean, Facebook, and of course, Google has YouTube, of course. I mean, social media is a thing. I think even Twitter was getting into like the live event space. How do you see social media working with your service?
So we want to work with everybody, and we do work with YouTube today. As you say, there's Facebook Live. Twitter does video pretty nicely. They're all kind of doing their own thing. They're all big, successful companies. After I've worked for a big, successful company, it's almost like the bigger and more successful you are, the harder it is to make a really fundamental change.
Yeah.
And so, like, essentially demoting or almost removing text chat is going to be really hard for these companies that have grown up with that as their main feature. And what we think some of these people will do, they'll just add in more and more and more features, and so you can share your screen and you can share your videos and you can talk, and it's just a big mess. It doesn't work. One advantage we have as a small independent is that we can do the browser thing and work with everybody. It's a little hard for me to imagine that Facebook is going to start working with YouTube, and YouTube is going to start working with Twitch. So as an independent, we can kind of just layer over everybody and do deals and be happy.
So, and one way that I actually kind of meant that was, let's say, sending invites out to a group of Facebook friends, or sending invites, directly through the app, maybe through Twitter, or being able to tweet out a link, which I'm sure you could do, right now, wouldn't be too hard. But that's kind of what I meant about social media integration. Would be, would there be a way to, I guess, kind of work Facebook and Twitter profiles into, the profile system that you have set up?
Yeah. We're trying to figure out all sorts of things. It would be nice to be able to do that integration, if nothing else, just to make the job of the new user easier. Right now, you have to pick yourself a name, and you're gonna hopefully pick yourself a nice image, and you have to stock your friends list. And if anything we can do to just sort of simplify the first 10 minutes is great. We haven't done it yet, in part because we figure we will live or die by whether it's fun to watch and talk with your friends. So we'll put all of our energy into that. And as soon as that gets to be proven, then we can go and start doing the nice to haves, like, hey, do you want to import your Facebook friends list, or whatever other kind of, you know, you like it and now you want to do even more thing.
Right. So let's cover the basics. I said a couple times, iOS, Android, web browser. Is this service free, and how much does it cost if it's not?
It is free to the end users. We do plan to, after the beta period, charge businesses if they want to have, a virtual theater with 5,000 people. That will not be free to a business, but the plan for normal folks is it's free. Hopefully someday we can do some sort of premium stuff like special skins or
emotes seem to be the way to go.
Exactly. So but right now it's all free.
Right.
all the clever ways of asking for money are in the future.
I gotcha. All right. So it's currently free and of course available for download. You mentioned that you're in beta, but people can go out and download this right now if they'd like.
Yes, indeed. But now the plan is when we start to integrate with TV sports, we will probably have a limited beta. We're going to probably only let in 5,000 or 10,000 people, just because there's some extra technical stuff we got to deal with. That hopefully starts in the spring. And so, but right now it's open beta. Go have fun. Twitch, YouTube, Vimeo, Mixer, and I'm particularly proud of both the Twitch and the YouTube integration at this point are really, really nice. In some ways I prefer them over the native Twitch and YouTube clients. So
perfect.
We've tried hard.
Yeah, and so with that, we're actually, first of all, I apologize for taking your time. I said it was going to be about 30 minutes, but hey, we took up the entire hour. So I will say that people, if you want to go check out more, Hearo.live, or we'll have a link over at computeramerica.com right there on the homepage. Click today's interview, and hey, we'll have a link right there. Everyone, we've been talking to Mr. Ned Lerner. He is the CEO of the company. And Ned, is there anything that we didn't touch on? Anything that you feel like we should bring up before we wrap it up?
So I'm hoping someday that we can bring a live audience to radio too, because we can bring it to video. So maybe that's a discussion for next time.
Absolutely. No, and trust us, because we have been on the air now for 29 years. We were one of the first, and because, we're a tech radio show, we were one of the first radio shows to have an IRC chat room. And that's always, some form of chat functionality has been a part of Computer America. So, hey, you know what? We'll definitely be in touch. I am looking forward to see a lot of these plans that we talked about that are in the near future actually coming to fruition. And hey, let's have you back on in a little bit and see how it's going.
Thank you so much, and great chatting with you. And we're still a young company, so please feel free to reach out to the company any way you can if there's any questions, anything we can help you with.
Of course. So let's go ahead and just say thank you so much. Everyone, once again, computeramerica.com will have a link, or check it out directly, Hearo.live, if you want to go check it out. And of course, find it in the App Store as well. So Ned, until next time, I want to thank you so much for coming on. And hey, looking forward to hearing back from you. Have a good one.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right, take care. All right, everyone. And now we were going to do computer and technology news, but unfortunately, let's see. Yes, Computer America was one of the first shows with chat and still running it. Yep. Fort in the chat room. He is an ever vigilant moderator, even in the chats as we speak. So everyone, almost didn't hit that mute switch. One more time, I really do apologize for the way that I sound. It's genetic, and by genetic I mean it's germs. So with that being said, I think we're about done with the show. We only have about a minute left. In fact, the music should be starting right there. Everyone, that's it for today. If you want to tune in tomorrow on the show, let's check out who it's going to be. Tomorrow on the program, we're going to be talking to the one, the only, Mr. Mike Cermak. And if you haven't been following Tesla, they've been doing some crazy things. And Mike is generally the guest that we talk about Tesla with. And then, hey, let's go ahead and talk more about current events, things like that. Mike's always a great guest, and I'm looking forward to hearing from him, hearing from you, and more. Everyone, thank you for tuning into Computer America. Until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much, and hey, we'll catch you here tomorrow. Bye, everyone.